Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe refuses to step down and could be facing impeachment. Exploring soulful options for the Thanksgiving meal. And basic black on the red carpet at the American Music Awards. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. Now, the high-stakes political drama continues in Zimbabwe on Monday as longtime President Robert Mugabe ignored a noon local deadline to either step down or face impeachment. In a televised speech Sunday, Mugabe made clear that he does not intend to resign. The 93-year-old leader addressed the nation after being sacked as the ruling party leader. Zimbabweans have come out in massive rallies demanding his resignation, and his ZANU-PF party leaders have asked him to step aside. VOA's Zlati Zahok has our report.
Thousands of protesters rallied in the streets of the capital Harare on Saturday, demanding the resignation of Robert Mugabe, who has been Zimbabwe's leader for 37 years. But in a televised speech late Sunday, the world's oldest president offered no hint that he is preparing to step down. In fact, he announced he would preside over the ruling party's Congress in mid-December.
The Congress is due in a few weeks from now. I will preside over its processes, which must not be prepossessed by any acts calculated to undermine it or to compromise the outcomes in the eyes of the public.
But the Central Committee of the ruling ZANU-PF party, which Mugabe helped found 37 years ago, said earlier that the president must resign by noon Monday or be impeached. The committee said he was replaced as party leader by his former deputy, Emmerson Mnangagwa. Zimbabwe's military placed Mugabe under house arrest last week. His address Sunday followed his talks with military leaders.
Today's meeting with the command element has underscored the need for us to collectively start processes that return our nation to normalcy, so all our people can go about their business unhindered in an environment of perfect peace and security, assured that law and order obtain and prevail as before, and endure well into the future.
A Harare-based analyst says Mugabe's refusal to step down is the last card he's got.
Which is the refusal to confer legitimacy on his successor and trying to compel a situation where he is actually forced from office, and then he can remove any claims that what is happening is not a coup. And once it's clear that what is happening is a coup, then he hopes to get some regional support and support from the African Union on his side, because the African Union has clear provisions stating that they will not tolerate coups in any African country.
Mugabe led Zimbabwe to independence from Britain, but since becoming the country's leader in 1980, he has made it one of the poorest nations in the world. His leadership has been marked with authoritarianism and corruption. His merciless struggle to hold on to power eventually led to conflicts within his own party. Zimbabwe's latest political crisis erupted about 2 weeks ago, after Mugabe fired his deputy and former ally Mnangagwa in what is seen as support for his wife's political ambitions. Zlati Zahok, VOA News, Washington.
But for more on the political drama in Zimbabwe, Dewa Mavinga, the Southern Africa Director of Human Rights Watch, joins me live via Skype from Johannesburg. Dewa, welcome to Africa 54 once again.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
There's some development in Harare. It looks like, despite his stubbornness, Mugabe is on the way out, right?
Well, I would caution that not so fast, because at the moment, Mugabe has the law on his side in the sense that he has to volunteer or he has to move voluntarily. The military cannot outrightly force him because of the implications of an outright coup. And therefore, he has some time. In his speech last night, he was talking of presiding over the upcoming ZANU-PF Congress in mid-December. So in his mind, he is still around.
But an impeachment can effectively take him out without an appearance of a military coup, right?
Yes, but it is not that simple and straightforward in the sense that ZANU-PF would need to command at least a 2/3 majority of the total membership of the two houses of parliament, the National Assembly and the Senate. And some members of ZANU-PF are loyal to Mugabe, remain loyal to him and his wife, and therefore will not vote for impeachment. And yesterday, ahead of Mugabe's speech, which was thought to be a resignation, some of the key members in ZANU-PF, Chinamasa and Mpofu, began to say we do not need the opposition because we can get rid of Mugabe on our own, because this is an internal affair. And that kind of reckless utterance has actually alienated the opposition, which means that they may be rethinking their position on whether or not they should be helping ZANU-PF to get rid of Mugabe.
But when you look at the mood of the country, we've seen rallies, you've seen protests on the streets. Does the party seem like it will, in any way, however much some people may support him, want to maintain Mugabe in the position of presidency?
Well, what is key here, Vincent, is not the party or the people. It is actually the military that in the first place put Mugabe under house arrest and forced his hand. So it depends on what kind of negotiations and deal Mugabe can cobble out with the military. It appears their talks are very opaque, they are shrouded in secrecy, no one really knows what's happening. There is a lot of speculation and misinformation, but the reality is that the key to the future, to Mugabe's future and to what happens next, lies in the talks between Mugabe and the security forces, and not with ZANU-PF as a party. ZANU-PF has purportedly recalled Mugabe from the party, but it cannot force its hand to recall Mugabe as head of state and government. This would need to happen through parliament. And of course, in parliament, the numbers are not guaranteed, because some of the members of ZANU-PF have been fired, they've been expelled, others are in hiding, and we have heard that some of them are in military detention. So it will not be so simple to have a constitutional and legally enforceable impeachment process.
Now, Dewa, let's indulge in some speculation here also. What are some of the possibilities that the military and Mugabe could get into? What is the best way forward?
Well, if you go back to the demands that were put forward by General Chiwenga when he threatened that the military might step in, the demands were not focused on Mugabe per se. The demands were that they should stop the faction of the G40 or the ascendance of Mugabe's wife and the return of the expelled Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa. So what could actually happen is that Mugabe could agree with the military that they would go to Congress and open up for Mnangagwa a space to go in, and they might even agree that Mugabe finishes his term of office, which is due to expire by July, August 2018, when fresh elections are due. So that could actually be an arrangement that could be acceptable to the military.
Interesting. We'll be observing things. Dewa, thank you very much. We do appreciate your insight. That's Dewa Mavinga. He's a Southern Africa Director of Human Rights Watch, and he joined us live via Skype from Johannesburg. Now to East Africa, Kenya's Supreme Court has upheld the October rerun election victory of incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta, who won just over 98% of the vote. The election was boycotted by the opposition. It was the first time a court in Africa had overturned a presidential election result. 3 petitions had been filed with the High Court challenging the October vote. All of them were dismissed on Monday. A group of supporters of President Uhuru Kenyatta danced and sang outside the Supreme Court on Monday following the verdict. Turnout for the poll was just under 39% of the 19.6 million registered voters. That's according to the head of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The October vote was a repeat of the August presidential election. Kenyatta was declared the winner of that vote, but the results were thrown out by the Supreme Court because of irregularities in the transmission of results.
Unanimously determined the presidential election of the 26th October is hereby upheld, as is the election of the third respondent.
Well, Supreme Court, Chief Justice speaking, the opposition leader Raila Odinga on his side has dropped out of the presidential rerun, said in a statement that the ruling did not come as a surprise and was a decision taken under duress. Now, more now on how others reacted to Monday's Supreme Court ruling.
This court is a creature of the Constitution of Kenya. We as Kenyans have said we are bound by our Constitution and the laws, and therefore we respect any decision that is made by this court. At least those who came to court have been heard. The sentiments that they wished to express before the court have been listened to, and the court has made a decision.
And today we are happy that following the due process, the win of the president now has been validated by the Supreme Court in an unanimous decision.
We are business people here. We have lost a lot of business because even we don't have customers, we don't have people who are coming to our shops, anything. But at least now the CJ have done a ruling which I think it's a hearing to Kenyans, because we should not even try to be tribal now. We build Kenya, we go on with our lives, and Kenya will grow up again.
For more on the reaction to the Kenyan Supreme Court ruling, VOA East Africa correspondent Jill Craig joins me now live via Skype from Nairobi. Jill, we have mentioned that there was jubilation by those who support President Uhuru Kenyatta, but that's not all that there was in Kenya today. There were some other forms of reactions. Share with us.
Yeah, what you were speaking of obviously was quite prevalent with Mr. Kenyatta's supporters cheering in various areas of the country. However, on the opposite side, in the opposition strongholds, places like Western Kenya and places like some of the slums in Nairobi, people were not quite so happy, and there were protests this afternoon. We've got reports of one person who was killed in Migori, which is Western Kenya, and one person who was killed in Era. So,
experiencing some audio problem there. Let's try. Is there any concern, Jill, that there could be sustained protests across the country in the coming days?
Yes, I think that is a concern. A lot of Mr. Odinga's supporters have said that they're waiting for his next position. So you already read out the statement that he made earlier, but I think that people are still waiting for further action items, so to speak. Mr. Odinga has previously called for a national resistance movement, which is now being written on Twitter and every place else on social media as NRM. And so many people are waiting to see what this resistance movement is going to do to protect the
Okay, Jill, a little trouble there with the audio. Thank you, nevertheless, for filling us in. And that's VOA's East Africa correspondent Jill Craig coming live from Nairobi via Skype. Now, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Now, coming up, Temple of Soul Food nestled in the U.S. National Museum of History and Culture. Stay with us.
My name's Carla Babb, and I work the Pentagon Beat. That access helps me to do better stories. Every day it's my responsibility to collect all of the defense news. It keeps our VOA viewers informed. I get to travel all across the globe. Anything that's defense related and how to protect and keep people safe, that's where I'll go. So it's never a dull moment at the Pentagon. My name is Carla Babb. This is my beat.
On Thursday, November 23rd, Americans are celebrating Thanksgiving, honoring the memory of the first group of Europeans who, at the beginning of the 17th century, landed in what would become the United States. VOA's Anastasia Tudische met with Chef Jerome Grant, the executive chef of the Sweet Home Cafe, a temple of soul food nested in the National Museum of History and Culture, where the two explored the soul food side of Thanksgiving.
We are here at the Sweet Home Cafe, the cafeteria of the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and we are lucky enough to call the chef of this cafe our guide. So, Chef, we'll start with a tour.
Yes.
And then we'll cook together.
Awesome.
I'll feel like I'll be a chef for a day.
Yes, you will be.
Yay.
You will be.
Let's go.
What we have here is our kitchen. So we have our hotline side here. Moving on down here is pretty much all of our prep area. Here we have everything from collard greens going on to okras, different types of stews, gumbos. Just an awesome space to be able to tell this story and put this kind of food out. You know, it's really high volume for us. We serve anywhere between 1,800 to 2,000 people a day.
Wow.
So it's 7 days a week, 364 days a year. We only close on Christmas.
So you never take any holidays?
No, I live here. I live here. After slavery was abolished, a lot of Africans moved to the West for newer beginnings. A lot of them worked on, chuck wagons, feeding people, working on the railroads, But at the same time, there was this great mix of cultures. You had Native American culture out there, Latin culture, as well as Asian culture.
What does Thanksgiving mean to you?
To me, Thanksgiving means a lot. Just with myself, I work so much, and I'm always at work. I'm away from my family a lot of the times. And Thanksgiving is like one of those times that I actually get to sit down, have a meal with my family, hang out with my son, hang out with my mother, hang out with my father, and all my other cousins that I'm not too much around all the time. And to just be me, just be the old school guy that I grew up to be. And, nobody brings that out more than just being with your family.
You said in a previous interview that you consider the cafe, Sweet Home Cafe, as an edible exhibit. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, so I view our cafe as an edible exhibit. We're a piece of the museum. We talk about African American foodways and want you to see our culture through our lenses. And the best way to really understand a culture to me is to go and have a meal with the people. Understand why they do these things or the ingredients that they utilize. There you'll really see the underlying of, what the backbone of the culture is. And for us, we make great food, but we also tell the stories behind it. So what we'll start doing is building the pot liquor for it. Here's actually the liquid that we're going to braise the greens in. Let's get 2 of those in there.
Sugar and salt?
Sugar and salt. I'm going to go ahead and do a pinch of red chilies in there, just to really pick up the pepper flavor to it.
Should I add?
Yep.
Okay, no.
Yeah, we'll do it one more in there. Can you smell like the hints of vinegar and stuff like that? One next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and make some mac and cheese. We're going to add a little bit of our bechamel in there. We've already blanched off our macaroni. You can add as much cheese as you want it.
Yes.
We've already added a little bit of pepper to our bechamel when we made it.
Oh.
Black peppercorns to really kind of give it that peppery flavor. Awesome. During our Thanksgiving here, we also feature smothered turkey wings, which is a southern staple. So what we've done is we've taken them and we've slow braised them in a Trinity gravy that consists of onions, peppers, as well as celery. A lot of white wine, a lot of chicken stock, and we slow braise them for about 2.5 hours.
The smell is...
Yeah, so you get like the nice herbaceous smell from the rosemary.
Rosemary, yep. Yeah.
So after they're done cooking, where they're just almost falling off the bone, we'll separate the stock from it and actually build the sauce out of the same braising liquid.
And another very important ingredient on the table that you can't miss is cornbread.
It's cornbread, yes. We go through a lot of cornbread here, over 500 pieces a day. We bake ours fresh here in-house. Simple recipe, a little bit of cornmeal, flour, sugar, eggs and milk, as well as a little bit of honey just to add that nice finishing sweetness to it.
Dessert time. Still with Chef Jerome, with the infamous sweet potato pie, and I can tell you guys that it smells so good. Do you drink coffee with it or a glass of wine?
Things I put with it depends on my mood. So if it's me sneaking a slice of sweet potato pie at night, you'll probably see a nice glass of whiskey next to it.
Here we have a little insight of what can be found on an African-American traditionally table for Thanksgiving. And I think it's just half of it. There's some more.
Oh, there's so much more.
So much more?
Yes.
Oh my God. But this is a good start.
Yes, most definitely. This is a good start.
Collard green, turkey,
collard greens, mac and cheese, sweet potato pie, cornbread.
Sweet potato pie, cornbread. Yes. We've done a great job.
Yes.
How do you say bon appetit?
Bon appetit.
Bon appetit.
Well, Anastasia Tudeshe, a VOA French reporter, now joins me in studio to tell us more about her experience. Wow, how was that like, smelling all that food, looking at all that food?
What do you think? It was fantastic.
Wow. Yeah.
It was fantastic.
But someone may say, okay, we're talking about Thanksgiving. We associate Thanksgiving with those fellows who came from Europe. What does it have to do with African Americans?
I know, right? When the first pilgrims arrived in 1620 from the Mayflower, there were no slaves, no Africans on the boat. And even later on, when the Continental Congress, published a decree for the 13 colonies to give thanks for the victory over the British at Saratoga, African American people were slaves at that time. Yeah. And I asked the question to the chef, and his answer was immediate. He told me, that shows you how resilient we are. We know how to be able to be thankful no matter what, no matter the surrounding, no matter the moment in history.
So it's like, okay, we're going to take this particular festival or this kind of event and make it ours.
And make it ours. And even during slavery, slaves used to celebrate Thanksgiving as well, even though at that time it was more of a church-oriented celebration. And, you were happy to celebrate the bountiful harvest and the drought-breaking rains, things like that. And more, it became a, more festive and with food, and they have their own very spicy and soul food version of it.
So for those of our viewers, like in Africa, although this was being prepared by a chef, but this is typically a representation of what an African-American meal would look like around Thanksgiving.
Absolutely, correct, yes. And so you have the staples, sweet potato, mac and cheese, the collard green that we've seen, and the turkey, of course. But the way African Americans prepare the turkey is different. More spicy, you have cornbread, you have different types of spices, and it's something else. You still have the cranberry sauce, but
it'll make it a little tastier, a little more savory.
I would say that. Maybe I'm biased, but I would say that.
But it looked good. It looks good. If anybody can make this at home and, manage to feed the family, any other day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
It'd be amazing.
Absolutely, but it takes time, though.
All right. And finally, anything you want to share about your own observations there before you leave?
I think the Chef Jérôme talks about this Sweet Home Cafe as an edible exhibit. And I do believe that, because you have food from every part of the U.S. cooked by African Americans. And really, people go to the museum for that, as well as for the Sweet Home Cafe. So it's an amazing thing to visit.
I'm likely to go there for the food.
Yes.
Anastasia, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure, as usual.
Yeah, great show. Okay, great piece, and also thanks for your thoughts.
Thank you.
All right. That's a VOA French reporter, Anastasia Tudeshe. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Basic Black on the red carpet. We'll be right back.
This is a country that I chose to become a citizen. I didn't have to become a citizen. I chose to become a citizen.
I feel like America gave me an opportunity to pursue my passion as an artist.
I really believe that clean eating is a way to a more successful life, or a happier life, if you want to put it that way.
One of the things that helps me wake up every morning is doing better, being better.
We grew up poor, and so I'm always focused on helping the working class be able to have a more comfortable lifestyle.
I'm passionate about doing justice every day. I oftentimes say that justice is a verb, not a noun. You know, I believe in action and moving the ball forward.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Serena Williams and Alexis Ohanian officially tied the knot in New Orleans with a French ball-themed celebration after the birth of their daughter, Alexis Olympia Ohanian Jr. Earlier this fall, Ohanian is the co-founder of the website Reddit. The ceremony boasted 3 dress changes for the bride, $3.5 million worth of jewels, and hundreds of guests. Next up, All Black was on trend at the American Music Awards red carpet. Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, Nicole Kidman, and Ciara got the All Black memo at the American Music Awards. Gomez wore a zippered leather mini dress. Kidman coordinated with her husband, Keith Urban, in a simple ankle-length dress, and Steinfeld wore a pantsuit with an open jacket. Lovato arrived with Danica Rome, who became the first openly transgender person elected to Virginia State House earlier this month. Meanwhile, performer Pink showed up in layers of tulle in Yes, Pink. Or tulle. Well, and finally, millennials who prefer visiting places over possessions are helping to drive up tourism and the demand for more places to stay. That's according to research by CBRE Hotels Americas. The study also found older consumers spend a higher amount of their money on health, education, recreation, and leisure, whereas millennials like to spend more on travel and experiences. Hotels are also turning to offering more lifestyle options in a bid-to-bid competition from other providers such as Airbnb. And that is what is trending today. Well, that's our show for today. Now, be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa. That's between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching. From all of us here in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. A cannon used to be a common military weapon.
Loose cannon.
So, are Anna and Jonathan talking about an old battle?
Hey, I'm looking for someone to host a political event tomorrow night. Can your friend Sylvia help out?
Sylvia? She's a loose cannon. You never know what she's going to say. She could easily